if you spend so much money, time, effort into a US degree and you go on an F1 visa, your probable end goal is going to be a green card. But the problem is that most of the pathways available today, at least the pathways that the general media talks about, are pathways that don't work anymore. Why? Because they were built by people in the generation of our parents. 50 years ago, those pathways used to work very well. Maybe even 10, 20 years ago, they used to work okay. But as of today, those pathways don't work. You want to go from the student visa to the H1B and then to the green card? Great, congratulations, the pathway is there. But it requires employer sponsorship. First, you need to get sponsorship for your H1B. Then you need to get sponsorship for your EB2, EB3 green card essentially. And most employers as of today don't want to file. Perm is taking 2 years almost at this point. It's just that these pathways are tiringly outdated. And guess what? There's right now a waiting time of about 25 years to get your green card. And what if you lose your job for just 60 days in these 25 years? Well, you have to leave. So it doesn't really make sense to go with these traditional pathways. In this video, I'm going to tell you what's working today and what you need to focus on to get a green card as of today. This is almost going to feel like a cheat code, trust me, but this works. I've seen it work for hundreds of people. Hundreds of students have gotten it, and I feel like you would be a good fit if you're a student going in today. So take a look at this table. This is called the visa bulletin. As of today, it's 2026. If I apply for a benefit and let's say I'm born in India, I would be looking at this particular column. In this column, you see employment-based first, second, third. What does that mean? That's EB1, EB2, EB3. EB2 and EB3 is what our parents or, all these people essentially from previous generations used to file. And it worked perfectly fine. But as of today, if you file in 2026, they're still processing for people who applied back in 2015. So by the time you get your green card, it should take, 10 years? No. In reality, it's going to take probably 2025. Why? Because the speed of processing is very slow. As simple as that, right? This doesn't basically move forward in a linear fashion. It goes back and forth. It depends on the speed of processing of the government. Now, here comes the EB1. If you see the topmost row, that one is EB1. Now, if you're not born in India, you could get the green card very, very quickly. There's no waiting time at all. But if you were born in India, even then, they're still processing people who applied in December 2023. That means approximately 3 years of waiting time, maybe 4, depends on their speed of processing, but that's what you're looking at. So how about that? It's as simple, right? You build your profile, qualify for the EB1. What does it take? We'll talk about that. But can you file the EB1? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. You could file for the EB1 if you want it. Well, there's a small problem here. The thing is that there's too many people who applied from India. As I showed you, they're still processing for people back in 2023. By the time they get to you, it's going to take 3-4 years probably, and then you'll be able to get a green card. So there's definitely a backlog. And there's another thing. Remember when you promised at your visa interview that you will come back to your home country, and that's really why they gave you the F1, because you never claimed that you were going to be settling down. So yeah, F1 is not a dual intent visa. F1 does not allow you to settle down. Typically, can you file a green card? Yes, theoretically you can. But the moment you travel outside of the country, you try to re-enter, that's where they're going to get you. They're going to say, hey, you have filed for a green card, but this visa doesn't exactly allow dual intent. So yeah, we might just revoke your visa. And it's not going to happen in every case, obviously, but there's a risk of this happening. So the biggest problem with the EB1, especially if you are from India, in that case, this problem exists, is that there's this backlog of about 3-4 years, in which case, if you stay in the country, you're fine. But now, even when you stay in the country and let's say you get OPT, STEM OPT, you have to file extension with the USCIS, this can cause issues. Okay, we understand. There's a bit of a waiting time in the middle. So how do we fix this? Well, remember there's something called as the H1B, which most students run after. The H1B actually fixes this problem. You could get onto an H1B potentially, which is dual intent and would allow you to file for a green card. The only problem is the H1B is employer sponsored. There's limited slots, so it's a lottery. Even if you are able to convince an employer, which by the way, in today's day and age, it's very difficult to do so because you won't even get a job in that case. But if you're somehow able to get a job, convince your employer to file the H1B, they file it. Even then, there's a bit of a problem here, and that is it's a lottery at the end of the day. You may or may not get it. There are expenses involved in the process. Maybe your employer is taking them up, maybe they're not. It depends. And if you're from outside of the US filing directly the H1B, that's obviously, more and more difficult. Even though the $100,000 fee right now at this point in time when I'm making the video, they say it's removed, it can come back, it's being contested, all kinds of things are happening. So the employers are just not interested anymore in filing the H1B so much because they realize that there's just so many changes happening. They're scared at this point. So here comes your savior, the O1 visa. This one does not require any sort of a lottery. You can apply any time of the year, unlike the H1B, which can be only filed once a year. You can file this any time of the year. So it doesn't have to be the case that, oh, if I don't have an employer in March only and they're not ready to sponsor me in March, then I cannot apply all year round and I've wasted my one attempt of applying the H-1B? No, O1 you can apply any time of the year. You just need to meet some requirements, which are, by the way, the same as EB1 requirements, and the bar is even a bit lower. So it becomes easy now that, okay, if you are building up your profile for the EB1 green card, O1 automatically comes as a part of the package for absolutely free if you think about it. There's still a technicality. Your employer does need to file for it. Now, there's two ways. You can do it through your employer, or you could set up your own company or go through an agent and file for yourself. Both of these pathways do exist. So if you apply for the O1, what's your chances of you getting it? What if I told you that the visa chances over here are 94%? Yes, and that's not my success rate. That's the government's. That's the USCIS success rate, 94%. H-1B, what is the probability that you get it? It's not higher than 35% in most years. And obviously, it depends on how many people apply, what kind of rule changes happen. But I like your odds a lot better for the O1. Now, the best part about the O1 is that it also allows you to file for the green card. It's also a work permit. You can travel freely. And in those 3 years when there's the EB1 backlog going on, essentially, you could be on the O1 and you can keep on extending the O1 as much as you want because it has unlimited extensions. If I had to give you the rough cost of applying the H-1B versus the O1, you can see that the H-1B and O1, if you're applying from within the country, the costs are the same. And the H-1B, if at all the 100,000 fee comes back, we don't know what happens the next March, we'll see. Then the cost of applying the H-1B it's unreasonable basically for an employer to hire you from outside the country. And what if you can't get an employer to file for you? Well, that's okay. That's completely fine. You could just go ahead and, like I said, set up your own company. You do have to take care of a couple of things. You need to have a genuine business plan. You need to have some sort of way to get money into the company so you can pay yourself a salary, right? You need to have an employer-employee relationship, so there should be someone supervising you. But then this is an excellent method. If someone doesn't want to sponsor you, they can just basically go ahead and say, hey, you know what? We are going to hire you on a contract. We won't give you sponsorship, but then your company gets the money from that contract and you can take care of the sponsorship yourself. So you don't need an outside sponsor. It gives you so much more control. You could basically take care of your immigration, control your immigration a lot more. And there's a couple of other benefits, of course. So here's the end-to-end roadmap. As of today, if you are wanting to go to the US, get a green card from a student visa, this is what you do. You enter on the F1, you do your OPT, SEM-OPT if you have access to it, and then from there you move on to the O1, somewhere in between. Whenever possible, the sooner the better. When you're on the O1 or the H-1B by that logic, essentially, whichever one you can get, you go ahead and file for the EB1 green card. Yeah, now there's a 3-year waiting time. In those 3 years, you stay on the H-1B or the O1, whichever one you have access to, and then after that, you get a green card approximately 3-4 years later. And it's as simple as that. It's really a very short process. It's not very long, but it definitely has a lot more approval requirements from the government side. So these O1, EB1, these visas are called extraordinary ability visas. You need to have something special on your profile, and a lot of people in the comments might say, hey Yash, you know what, this is only for PhDs, this is only for these kinds of like CEOs. No, it's not. It's really for anyone and everyone, as long as you have certain characteristics on your profile. These could be a high salary, a very important role in an organization. Maybe they're going to face a loss without you, some sort of patents. Maybe you have patents. Maybe you have some sort of awards which are internationally or nationally recognized. Maybe you have research papers that you publish as a part of your degree, or you can publish them right now. Maybe you have certain memberships which are given to really the top 1% or top 10% of the people in their domain. Maybe you have done a lot of judging. Maybe you've done peer reviews, which you can still do from the comfort of your home, by the way. So you could build a profile for these kinds of visas, and it's more than possible. It's just that people don't realize that it is possible, and certain people think that it's very easy. No, it's not. It takes about a year to build up most profiles, but when you do, you would be surprised as to how easy getting some of these visas can be. Because guess what? No one was born with these attributes. At the end of the day, everyone builds these as they go. Now, yes, the question is, how do I know if this is for me, if I can even qualify? Maybe I'm already qualifying, I'm not sure. Well, guess what? I have a free eligibility check link in the description below. Try it out. You're gonna have a one-on-one direct chat with me. So in my voice or in my, I'll personally text you the response if you're eligible, if you're not eligible. But it's free. So try it out, and you can also sign up on YMGrad. You can chat with me over there. A lot of people are doing the O1 EB1 process, so you'll be able to socialize with those people as well if you'd like. And of course, if you'd like live case updates and more stories around these visas, you can follow me on Instagram and subscribe to the channel over here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a good one. All the best for your green card.